Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are looking at the week of Monday, September 15th to Sunday, September 21st. It's a busy week astrologically, and the cards, we have 3 majors again. So pretty powerful energies. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if you're new, welcome for the first time. Please always take this entire thing with a grain of salt, meaning run it through your own intuition and see what resonates for you. Leave the rest behind. I think that's one of the most powerful things happening in human evolution right now, is us learning to be more discerning from our internal filters. So we start the week with the moon in Cancer, the nurturing, homebody, loving family, food, the comforts of home, as our moon. And then we go to the moon in Leo, and that's the fiery, creative, dramatic one, and leadership. Then we go to Virgo, where we're having a solar eclipse. We had the lunar, and now we're going to the solar. They always come in pairs like that, usually solar first, but this time the opposite. And then we end, that's on Sunday, and then later Sunday afternoon the moon goes into Libra, balance, fairness, aesthetics, diplomacy, energies like that. So on Monday, the 15th, we're going to have Venus sextiling Mars. So they're communicating and things are going very well. Our feelings and actions come into balance. Because, Venus is about the feelings, Mars is the action, and they're communicating well, helping each other. And that is a day that you might consider investing in something that really appeals to your heart. Then on the 17th, Wednesday, we have Mercury opposite Saturn. So that's going to help us be very practical and authentic in our communications. We could do some serious mental work. It could feel a little bit heavy because of the Saturn aspect on our communication, Mercury. I think in opposition there's also a kind of balance. So it could be a good day for like sort your paperwork, file your stuff. Again, serious sorts of mental pursuits. And then on Thursday, we have Mercury entering Libra. So Mercury's busy that day because it's also going to oppose Neptune and trine Uranus. That's a lot going on. So with it entering Libra, that's why it sets up in opposition to Neptune and trines Uranus. Uranus being at the beginning of Gemini, and then Neptune being at the beginning of Aries. So that's the opposite of the Libra. So what do we do this day? With it entering Libra, Mercury entering Libra, that is pleasant. It helps our diplomacy skills, helps us communicate well, share our ideas in ways that others can receive them. And that goes on for about 3 weeks. With it being opposite Neptune, that's where we could get fuzzy with it. We could get very mystical. We could get very creative. Not great for like making really detailed decisions. And with it trining Uranus, that is it's a very pleasant aspect, and it's going to perhaps make our communication really wild, very creative, zany. We need to kind of watch out for that part of it. So we've got some fuzzy communication, we've got some very creative stuff, and then some diplomatic, all in the same day. So a lot of Mercury communication energy. You got to figure out, maybe look at your own chart and see how that might affect you. where's your natal Mercury, where's your Libra, and so forth. Then on 19th, on Friday, we have Venus entering Virgo, and that's a really nice place for it to be. It'll help us to be practical and detailed. It can be good for our relationships. We'll be willing to do the work and, to work well with a partner and take care of ourselves. Venus in Virgo really helps us with that too, self-care. Then Venus is busy this week too, as well as as well as Mercury. Then we get Venus squaring Uranus on the next day, that's Saturday, and also that day the Sun opposite Saturn. Hold just a sec. Sorry, had to let a kitty out. So with the Venus squaring Uranus, that's where our love lives could get a little off kilter. It could be, with the Sun opposing Saturn, it could be a testy day, especially in relationships, also in our moods. So the Sun opposing Saturn can have us feeling kind of heavy, kind of restricted. You got all this energy of light and abundance, and then you've got this, okay, let's get serious, let's get practical and real with Saturn. And then with Venus and that square, which is, produces tension. It could encourage us to, again, do abrupt emotional things, kind of heavy-handedly. So you want to watch for that. This too shall pass. And then on the next day, we have that solar eclipse in Virgo. Astrologers in general are talking about how intense these eclipses have been. When you've got the Virgo Pisces axis, we're coming from the Virgo energy, the practical, the individual in a way. I mean, not that Virgo does service, but it stands for the Virgin, of course, and that to me is a sovereign self. But when you go to Pisces, it's opposite. Then you're getting the collective unconscious, the oneness, not the detail, but the imaginative, perhaps the dreaminess. So for humanity, we're looking at that. How do we work individually, and how do we work collectively? And I mean, you get some of that with the Leo Pisces thing, but Leo Aquarius, but with the Virgo Pisces, it can again be very detailed, specific kind of service from Virgo, and then going into this really mystical energy and understanding our oneness. In a way, getting past what some people describe as the illusion of separation that's on our planet, and that's a lot of why supposedly our souls come here, to work through that kind of energy, to understand, yes, I'm an individual, yes, I'm sovereign, but I also belong to this greater collective. Maybe like, a drop in the ocean, or a wave in the ocean. Okay, so like I said, a lot going on with that. I'm using the Morgan Greer this week, and our first card for Monday was the King of Swords. So, here is, this would be a little more action-oriented, though, when you're talking swords, you're talking mental. I'm thinking of Mars that day. But, I love that this particular King of Swords holds wheat right next to his sword. So the sword can be used as a tool. That, and in this Virgo season, that seems very appropriate to me. Use that to cut the food and not to cut each other with strong words. So this could be a strong masculine energy or a real mental clarity and expression through words. On Tuesday, first of our three majors, as I mentioned, is the Fool. So this is a big rebirth, a restart for us, opening up the self to seeing things in a new way. I mean, the dark side can be, we feel foolish, or we see somebody as a fool, something like that. And, sometimes people are foolish, or, in general, kind of like a fool. But the positive is that openness, that ready to take an adventure, and the wholeness of the self before we get into that separation. Then on Wednesday, there's a kind of, this is when we get Mercury opposite Saturn. So leaving a situation behind, perhaps leaving behind a way we feel about something. Sometimes this card can be associated with a sort of spiritual rebirth. It's an 8 that to me associates it with the house of Scorpio, the 8th house. And how can we renew ourselves by maybe flushing something through, letting go of it, and so forth. And again, it could be more personal or it could be more on the collective level. And it's going to be associated with strength. So there is a strength in knowing when to let go and move on. We get another 8 on Thursday. And this one is the 8 of Wands. This is a very outward expression. The other one is much more inward, you know, cups versus fire, water versus fire, wands. And it can be very romantic, as in passionate, flirting with someone. It can be a great desire to communicate. And I think on a very instinctual level. So putting information out there that comes from the instinct, comes from the passion itself. And again, connected to the strength card. So the first one, letting something go, you know, kind of filtering through the emotional system, and then a new expression from that. On Friday, we have the 2 of discs. So here is balancing. This is when Venus enters Virgo. That makes a lot of sense to me because of the earthiness of this, the discs. And, you know, it's like the ocean and the ship are in their own sort of balance behind our person's head here. And then the person is doing almost a yin-yang, right, with the I mean, the symbols are very different because they're these discs, but there's that sense of connection. It reminds me a bit of that. And of course, the infinity of the endless loop here crossing in the middle. So how do we keep things in balance and try to maintain that balance? Of course, part of it's always, you know, rebalancing, but there's an earthiness to this, and it could feel nice. It could be getting in balance in a relationship. Remember, that's a tough day, so I think this is a good energy to focus on rather than, you know, arguing with someone. Oh, actually, that would be the next day. That would be for our Saturday, but still, those energies, you know, it's not strictly one day. There's overlap for sure, spillover. By Saturday, we get to our second major, and that is the Magician. So on the positive side, this is mixing things up. We get that infinity sign above the head here. We have all of the elements, the earth, water, fire, and air. What new thing can happen out of that? This can be a very charismatic person, a leader, that one. And on the dark side, it can be like a shyster, somebody trying to take advantage through, you know, trickery, through sleight of hand, things like that. But on the positive, that might be a good way to look at it. You know, really try to come from a place of wholeness and integrity, because that's the day where we really do have a lot of tough astrology. And last but not least, in terms of the cards, we get the Devil. So, you know, this is the solar eclipse in Virgo day. So what keeps us in bondage? And when I say that, I don't mean physical bondage, but I mean like mental, emotional, spiritual bondage. How are we not having a sense of humor? Because, you know, the devil can be very much about playfulness, sense of humor, enjoying life, being sensual. Or it can be addictions, repressions, abuse, things like that. So I'd like to think of it in the more positive side. And I do think, again, because that's the day of the eclipse, that it could be encouraging us to let go of those darker views and to try to move more into that wholeness and that oneness, and, you know, let go of some of the differences. Of course, we had an assassination this past week. You know, a lot of stuff got stirred up, and we're dealing with very turbulent times to begin with. So try to laugh, try to enjoy yourself, try to be sensual, and let that darker stuff go. See it, acknowledge it. That's our shadow selves too. And then just know that that's only a part of us. This too shall pass. All right, and we will end with a tree oracle card. And I thought it was so interesting what came up. It's a 44 card, which is a master number, double digits there, the 4-4. And it is the keeper of follow through. And I don't think this was ever come up on the channel. And it makes a lot of sense to me, again, given some of the Mercury and the Venus and the Virgo stuff going on this week, that following through would be a good thing. So it's time to follow through. No amount of dreaming, intending, or progress making can bring a goal to its fulfillment. You must honor your promises by following through with action every step to the end. Are you mired in details? That would be going from the Virgo to the Pisces. Are you experiencing inertia because you've abandoned the hard work? This isn't a moment about lack of intention or imagination, and that's where the Pisces comes in. You've made it through those long hallways of creativity. These last steps are all about the push. There's a lot of sweat equity required to get a new life safely delivered into the world. Honor your commitments, especially those you have made to yourself. Review them, edit them if they no longer feel compelling to you. Keep the ones that feel radiant. Follow through all the way to the end. The first squeal of new life will be worth all the push. So, beloveds, that's our week. I'm wishing you the best possible 7 days. Again, thank you so much for being here. Please give it a like or subscribe if you haven't done that. Maybe share it with someone. And reach out if you think I can help you, if you have questions, comments, and so forth. Otherwise, I'll see you in 7 days.